Right. Chai. So today's episode, this is the second to last. There's today, and then we'll have the last one on Monday. Today is Lord Caitanya's relationship with Lord Jagannatha. So this is a very interesting and esoteric relationship because in one sense, they're both Krishna. So it's kind of like Krishna's relationship with himself. But we'll see how it's not exactly like that because the mood of Lord Caitanya is different. So the relationship between Lord Jagannatha and Lord Caitanya is it's a very intimate relationship which exists eternally. And that is that Lord Caitanya is in the mood of Srimati Radharani, feeling separation from Krishna, and Jagannath is Krishna feeling separation from Srimati Radharani. So you can just imagine the intensity, right? Radha feeling separation from Krishna and Krishna feeling separation from Radha. And then they meet and it's like, whoa. So yeah, whenever they see each other, whether it's in the temple, Jagannath temple, whether it's on Ratha Yatra, whenever Lord Caitanya sees Jagannath and Jagannath sees Lord Caitanya, it's like that mood of two lovers who've been suffering the pain of separation from each other for a long time, finally meeting again, which seems like a happy thing. It should be a happy thing, right? But this meeting that Lord Caitanya and Jagannath have in Puri is actually, it's kind of bittersweet because Radha and Krishna's place is Vrindavan and Puri is not Vrindavan, and Puri doesn't have the Vrindavan mood. The mood there is more like Dwarka, or specifically, it's like at Kurukshetra when there was a solar eclipse. So during the time of the eclipse, like we saw that in Lord Caitanya's appearance, that when there was an eclipse, then everybody went to the Ganga. They were standing in the Ganga chanting Hare Krishna because the eclipses are inauspicious, and then everyone goes to a holy place to, be safe from the bad effects of the eclipse. So on this particular occasion, everybody went to the holy place of Kurukshetra. And so all the Krishna went there with all the residents of Dwarka, all of his queens and soldiers and guards and ministers and family. And the residents of Vrindavan also went there. So Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, the gopis, the cowherd boys. So they were all together at that one place. And the Vrajavasis hadn't seen Krishna for a very long time already. So it was like seeing Krishna after a very long separation. And, as soon as Radharani and the gopis saw Krishna, they just, their hearts just wanted to run to him and embrace him. But they couldn't because, one, he was surrounded by all the residents of Dwarka, all those queens and ministers and soldiers and royal guards. And but even afterwards, later on, after everyone went to sleep, Krishna actually went to see the gopis privately, but it just wasn't the same, because it wasn't just about the people being there. It was also the whole mood of the place. It was still that same very formal Dwarka mood. And so it was kind of frustrating. It was awkward for them to be together in that place that just, it wasn't suitable to their relationship. So in the same way, when Lord Caitanya first entered the Jagannath temple in Puri, right after he took sannyas, he went to Puri and then he saw the Jagannath. As soon as he saw Lord Jagannath, that mood of Radharani within him, became strong, and he just started running towards the altar. He was like just darting towards the altar, like going to see a long lost intimate friend. And he was literally going to jump on the altar and embrace Lord Jagannath. But then there were guards there, and the temple guards, they didn't know who Lord Caitanya was. So they started running after him with sticks, and they were going to beat him and stop him and punish him for being so crazy in the temple. But fortunately, Lord Caitanya's ecstatic love for Jagannath was so strong that it caused him to faint. So he fainted on the way. So then they didn't have to beat him because he was unconscious. There was no longer a problem. But at that time, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was there, and he calmed the guards down and assured them that you don't need to deal with him. I'm going to take care of him. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was a he was an authoritative person in Puri. So when he spoke, then they listened and they allowed him to take responsibility for Lord Caitanya. But then later, when Lord Caitanya came to his external senses, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya advised him, he said, look, we don't want a repeat of what happened today. So please don't go alone to the Jagannath temple again. If you want to go, make sure you go with me or my men or somebody who can take care of you, because we don't want you to get hurt. And then Lord Caitanya said, don't worry, because I'm going to he said, if I go to the temple, I'm not going to go past the Garuda Stamba. So Garuda Stamba is like a pillar in the back of the temple where on top of the pillar is Garuda, who's, Krishna's eagle carrier, Lord Vishnu's carrier. So whenever Lord Vishnu is traveling, he travels on the back of Garuda, this giant eagle. And so because Garuda is a devotee and he always wants to take darshan of the Lord, then the temples, they put a little shrine of Garuda, or here they have a pillar with Garuda on it in the way back of the temple, just inside the entrance, or sometimes even outside, like in Mayapur, it's outside the temple, like in the courtyard. So he said, I'm never again going to enter the main temple. I'm not going to get close to Jagannath. I'm going to stay way in the back and just see him from a distance. So later on, there's a description in Chaitanya Charitamrita about Lord Chaitanya's ecstatic dancing at Ratha Yatra. So we just heard a little bit about his ecstasy seeing Jagannath in the temple, and now we're going to hear about his ecstasy seeing Jagannath on Ratha Yatra. So in the Ratha Yatra, Lord Caitanya he organized the whole Ratha Yatra, and he arranged for 7 different kirtan parties to be simultaneously going on. And he actually, at one point, he expanded himself to be dancing in each and every one of the groups simultaneously. And his ecstatic dancing in the Ratha Yatra is described in, there's a whole chapter in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that's just all about his ecstatic dancing at Ratha Yatra. So it's described there that he was jumping and he was spinning around and he was whirling his body so fast around in the air that it's said to look like a golden ring. Like you couldn't see. It's just like if you take a stick and you put it in the fire and let it get really hot, so the end of the stick is actually like glowing red hot, like fire color. And then you spin it around like that. I'm sure everyone's done it when they're a kid. You spin it around like that, then it just looks like a circle. You wouldn't know that it was just a singular like stick, like one point in space. So Lord Caitanya was spinning so fast that you wouldn't know that it was just one person. It just looked like a golden, because he's golden and effulgent. So it's just like this golden ring is in the air. And that was Lord Caitanya. The golden ring of the air was whirling Lord Caitanya in the air. So he would dance like that. And then sometimes he would stop dancing and he would fold his hands and he would recite prayers to Lord Jagannath. So for example, he would recite this famous prayer that we all know. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagaditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha, which means, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Krishna, who is the worshipable deity for all Brahminical men, who is the well-wisher of cows and brahmanas, and who is always benefiting the whole world. I offer my repeated obeisances to the personality of Godhead, known as Krishna and Govinda. And so that, and then he would gradually get into more and more intimate prayers. Like the next one is a famous one from the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. This is also in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It goes like this. Jayati Janani Vaso Devaki Janmavado Yaduvara Parishat Swar Dorbir Asyan Adharmam Stirachara Vijinagna Susmita Shri Mukena Brajapura Vanitanam Vardhayan Kamadevam, which means Lord Sri Krishna is he who is known as Jananivas, the ultimate resort of all living entities. And he was also known as Devaki Nandan or Yashoda Nandana, the son of Devaki and Yashoda. He is the guide of the Yadu dynasty, and with his mighty arms he kills everything inauspicious as well as every man who is impious. By his presence, he destroys all things inauspicious for all living entities moving and inert. His blissful, smiling face always increases the lusty desires of the gopis of Vrindavan. May he be all glorious and happy. So yeah, then after that, he recites this famous verse that where he says, I'm not a Brahmin, I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Vaishya or Shudra, I'm not a Brahmachari, a Grihasta, Vanaprastha, or Sannyas. I am just the servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of Krishna, who is the maintainer of the gopis. So he identifies that Krishna as the maintainer of the gopis, as the lover of the gopis, as Gopi Bhartu Padakamalayur. And he says he is Dasa Das Anudas in relation to that Gopi Bhartu. So he's really feeling that mood of the gopis' love for Krishna, of Srimati Radharani's love for Krishna, appreciation for Krishna. So he would stop and he would recite prayers like this. This is just a sample of some of the prayers that he would recite. And then he would just explode into ecstatic dancing again. So that continues like that. The description continues. So now I'm reading from, did I say where I'm reading from? Let me just tell you where I'm reading from. So this is Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 13. And the verses that I read just now are verses 77 to 70 to 80. And now I'm going to pick up again from 84. So text 84. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced, he displayed various blissful transcendental changes in his body. Sometimes he appeared as though stunned. Sometimes the hairs of his body stood on end. Sometimes he perspired, cried, trembled, and changed color. And sometimes he exhibited symptoms of helplessness, pride, exuberance, and humility. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell down with a crash while dancing, he would roll on the ground. At such times, it appeared that a golden mountain was rolling on the ground. So this is some manifestations of just how ecstatic Lord Caitanya was to see Jagannath. But it's not only that Lord Caitanya was overjoyed to see Jagannath, Jagannath was also ecstatic to see Lord Caitanya's dancing. And that's also described. So in text 99 of the same chapter, there's this verse that says, the car came to a complete standstill and remained immobile, while Lord Jagannath, with unblinking eyes, watched the dancing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Lord Jagannath was also stunned with ecstatic love. And because of that, the whole cart, the whole Rath, the chariot also became stunned and wouldn't move. No one could budge it. And it also says that the goddess of fortune, Subhadra, and Lord Balaram, so Baladev and Subhadra, both felt great happiness and ecstasy within their hearts. Indeed, they were seen smiling at the dancing. So not just Jagannath, but also Baladev and Subhadra, they were all ecstatic seeing Lord Chaitanya dancing. So here's a little bit more description of Lord Chaitanya's dancing. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced and jumped high, 8 wonderful transformations indicative of divine ecstasy were seen in his body. All these symptoms were visible simultaneously. His skin erupted with goose pimples, and the hairs of his body stood on end. His body resembled the silk cotton tree covered with thorns. Indeed, the people became afraid just to see his teeth chatter, and they even thought that his teeth would fall out. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's whole body flowed with perspiration and at the same time oozed blood. He made the sounds Jaja Gaga in a voice choked with ecstasy. So he's like trying to say, you know, Jai Jagannath, but it's just coming out as Jaja Gaga. I'm going to skip a little bit here. So yeah, so the Lord Chaitanya, he was just like in this highly highly exalted emotional state that was producing like a devastating ecstasy. So what was going on in Lord Chaitanya's mind to produce this ecstasy? We can find out this from Chaitanya Charitamrita, thanks to Lord Chaitanya's associate, Swarup Damodar. So Swarup Damodar was one of the few people that could really answer this question, like what was going on in Lord Chaitanya's mind to make him so ecstatic. Because Swarup Damodar is a very intimate associate of in Vraja Lila, in Krishna Lila. So Lord Chaitanya is in the mood of Radharani, and Swarup Damodar in Krishna Lila is either Lalita or Vishaka. More commonly that he's identified as Lalita Devi. So Lalita is like Srimati Radharani's, you know, very, very intimate confidant, close friend in Goloka Vrindavan. So she understands Radharani's mind very well. And she also knows very well Radharani's relationship with Krishna. So Swarup Damodar is just really tuned in. So Lord Caitanya, while he's dancing in ecstasy, he suddenly stops again, at least he pauses, and he asks Swarup Damodar to sing. He's just like, Swarup Damodar, sing a verse. So Swarup Damodar sings this verse. And the translation is, so this is text 113 in the same chapter. Now I have gained the Lord of my life, in the absence of whom I was being burned by Cupid and was withering away. Now Srila Prabhupada writes a very revealing purport on this verse, which really gets to the essence of Lord Caitanya's relationship with Lord Jagannath. So I'm going to read this purport. This song refers to Srimati Radharani's meeting with Krishna at the holy place of Kurukshetra, where Lord Sri Krishna and his brother and sister came to visit when there was a solar eclipse. It is a song of separation from Krishna. When Radharani met Krishna at Kurukshetra, she remembered his intimate association in Vrindavan, and she thought, now I have gained the Lord of my life. In his absence, I was being burned by the arrow of Cupid, and thus I was withering away. Now I have my life again. Hold on. Oh, that was 113. All right. The next one has a longer purport. This is just a little glimmer into it. Okay, so Swarup Damodar, he recited that verse. And then when Lord Caitanya heard it, he started dancing again, but this time he was doing a very interesting kind of dance. He was actually, like, in his dance, he was dramatically enacting the song, or, the situation that the song is referring to. So, for example, when he would go forward in dancing, forward meaning he would dance in front of the cart, like, walking forward, then the cart would move forward following him. And then whenever he would go back and kind of like fall behind the cart, so the cart's moving, and then he would dance slowly when the cart would pass him, and he would keep dancing behind the cart, then the cart would stop. So what he's acting out is that when he's behind the cart, he's acting out the separation of being left behind. Like when Akrura came to Vrindavan and took Krishna and Balaram away in his chariot, and the gopis were left behind. So that's like, Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra going forward, and Lord Caitanya in the mood of Radharani is getting left behind. So then he's feeling separation and absence of Krishna. And then now in the Ratha Yatra scenario, whenever that would happen, the cart would stop and wait for him. And then no matter how much anyone pulled, the cart wouldn't move. So then Lord Caitanya would then come forward and see Lord Jagannath, and then he would enter into the mood of Kurukshetra that, here's Krishna, I'm seeing Krishna, but the mood is not the same. The place is not right. Let me take Krishna back to Vrindavan. And then he would run forward again in front of the cart and lead the way, like dancing on the way to, going to Gundicha temple, which is meant to represent Vrindavan. And then as soon as Lord Caitanya would run forward like that, then the cart would start moving again. So Jagannath was basically following Lord Caitanya's lead. When Lord Caitanya would fall back, Jagannath would stop and wait. And when Lord Caitanya went forward, then Jagannath would follow. So, so now I'm going to read the verse, which is text 119, that references Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's commentary on this verse, and explains the internal meaning, which reveals this confidential relationship between Lord Caitanya and Lord Jagannath. So the verse says, thus there was a sort of competition between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Jagannath in seeing who would lead. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so strong that he made Lord Jagannath wait in his car. So this is like, it's kind of a different mood, because when you hear about Krishna leaving Vrindavan, it's like Radharani was just totally powerless. Like there's nothing that she could do. But here, like Jagannath, Lord Caitanya in the mood of Radharani is actually making the Lord wait and stop and wait for her. And she's leading him along back to Vrindavan. So it's very, and that's why he's getting so ecstatic, because it's like, you can see that the mood of Krishna, Jagannath, has changed. All right, I'm going to read the purport. In his Anubhasya, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes the ecstasy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as follows. After giving up the company of the gopis in Vrindavan, Sri Krishna, the son of Maharaj Nanda, engaged in his pastimes at Dwarka. When Krishna went to Kurukshetra with his brother and sister and others from Dwarka, he again met the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radha Bhava Duty Suvalita. That is, Krishna himself assuming the part of Srimati Radharani in order to understand Krishna. Lord Jagannath is Krishna, and Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Srimati Radharani. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's leading Lord Jagannath towards the Gundicha temple corresponded to Srimati Radharani's leading Krishna toward Vrindavan. Jagannath Puri was taken as the kingdom of Dwarka, the place where Krishna enjoys supreme opulence. But he was being led by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Vrindavan, the simple village where all the inhabitants are filled with ecstatic love for Krishna. Sri Kshetra, or Jagannath Puri, is a place of Aishvarya Lila, or opulence, just as Vrindavan is a place of Madhurya Lila, or sweetness. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's following at the rear of the Rath indicates that Lord Jagannath, or Krishna, was forgetting the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Although Krishna neglected the inhabitants of Vrindavan, he could not forget them. Thus, in his opulent Ratha Yatra, he was returning to Vrindavan. In the role of Srimati Radharani, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was examining whether the Lord still remembered the inhabitants of Vrindavan. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell behind the Rath car, Jagannath Dev, Krishna himself, understood the mind of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, Jagannath sometimes fell behind the dancing of, Therefore, sometimes Jagannath fell behind the dancing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to indicate to Srimati Radharani that he had not forgotten. Thus, Lord Jagannath would stop the forward march of the Rath and wait at a standstill. In this way, Lord Jagannath agreed that without the ecstasy of Srimati Radharani, he could not feel satisfied. While Jagannath was thus waiting, Gaura Sundar, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his ecstasy of Srimati Radharani, immediately came forward to Krishna. At such times, Lord Jagannath would proceed ahead very slowly. These competitive exchanges were all part of the love affair between Krishna and Srimati Radharani. In that competition between Lord Chaitanya's ecstasy for Jagannath and Jagannath's ecstasy for Srimati Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emerged successful. So you see what's going on here is that Lord Chaitanya, in the mood of Radharani, is testing Krishna's love for her. I'm going to call her because that's kind of how he's acting. That Krishna left Vrindavan, but she wants to see, does he remember us? Is he going to wait? Does he really care about me enough to wait for me? And Krishna is showing that he does. He's showing that, I'm always thinking of you, and whenever I can't see you, I just, I'm wishing that you were here, and I'm willing to go back. I want to go back also, like that. So Lord Chaitanya, or say the mood of Srimati Radharani, is becoming pacified and nourished by this exchange where Krishna is relieving her doubt about whether Krishna still remembers her and still loves her, and whether he's ever coming back to Vrindavan. So it's very, very sweet. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit more here. Now, this is from text 120. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing, his ecstasy changed. Raising his two arms, he began to recite the following verse in a loud voice. That very personality who stole away my heart during my youth is now again my master. These are the same moonlit nights of the month of Chaitra. The same fragrance of malati flowers is there, and the same sweet breezes are blowing from the Kadamba forest. In our intimate relationship, I am also the same lover, yet my mind is not happy here. I'm eager to go back to that place on the bank of the Reva under the Vetasi tree. That is my desire. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke thus to Lord Jagannath. So this is Lord Chaitanya directly talking to Jagannath, like out loud. You are the same Krishna, and I'm the same Radharani. We are meeting again in the same way that we met in the beginning of our lives. Although we are both the same, my mind is still attracted to Vrindavan Dham. I wish that you will please again appear with your lotus feet in Vrindavan. In Kurukshetra, there are crowds of people, elephants, horses, the rattling of chariots, but in Vrindavan, there are flower gardens and the humming of bees and chirping of birds. Here at Kurukshetra, you're dressed like a royal prince, accompanied by great warriors, but in Vrindavan, you appeared just like an ordinary cowherd boy, accompanied only by your beautiful flute. Here there's not even a drop of the ocean of transcendental happiness that I enjoyed with you in Vrindavan. I therefore request you to come to Vrindavan and enjoy pastimes with me. If you do so, my ambition will be fulfilled. So here, so Lord Caitanya is directly talking to Lord Jagannath, and he's saying this. And then he starts quoting, actually from the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, what the gopis said to Krishna. So this is text 136. The gopis spoke thus: Dear Lord, whose navel is just like a lotus flower, your lotus feet are the only shelter for those who have fallen into the deep well of material existence. Your feet are worshipped and meditated upon by great mystic yogis and highly learned philosophers. We wish that those lotus feet may also be awakened within our hearts, although we are ordinary persons engaged in household affairs. Speaking in the mood of Srimati Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, for most people, the mind and the heart are one, but because my mind is never separated from Vrindavan, I consider my mind and Vrindavan to be one. My mind is already Vrindavan, and since you like Vrindavan, will you please place your lotus feet there? I would deem that your full mercy. My dear Lord, kindly hear my true submission. My home is Vrindavan, and I wish your association there. But if I do not get it, then it will be very difficult for me to keep my life. My dear Krishna, formerly when you were staying in Mathura, you sent Uddhava to teach me speculative knowledge and mystic yoga. Now you yourself are speaking the same thing, but my mind doesn't accept it. There is no place in my mind for Jnana Yoga or Dhyana Yoga. Although you know me very well, you're still instructing me in Jnana Yoga and Dhyana Yoga. It is not right for you to do so. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, I would like to withdraw my consciousness from you. Excuse me. And engage it in material activities. But even though I try, I cannot do so. I am naturally inclined to you only. Your instructions for me to meditate on you are therefore simply ludicrous. In this way, you are killing me. It is not good for you to think of me as a candidate for your instructions. So it goes on like this. I'm going to skip a few verses. So Lord Caitanya, in the mood of Radharani, is really like heavily appealing to Krishna, to Jagannath, to Krishna. And he said, I'll read this one. I do not care for my personal unhappiness, but when I see the morose face of Mother Yashoda and the hearts of all the inhabitants of Vrindavan breaking because of you, I wonder whether you want to kill them all, or do you want to enliven them by coming there? Why are you simply keeping them alive in a state of suffering? Then he concludes, my dear Krishna, you are the life and soul of Vrindavan Dham. You are especially the life of Nanda Maharaj. You are the only opulence in the land of Vrindavan, and you are very merciful. So please come and let all the residents of Vrindavan live. Kindly keep your lotus feet again in Vrindavan. So that's what Lord Caitanya in the mood of Radharani is thinking. And now we're going to hear what Lord Jagannath or Krishna is thinking in response to this. So, Lord Caitanya has put forward his request and his reasoning, and Jagannath is going to respond. So, excuse me, text 148. After hearing Srimati Radharani's statements, Lord Krishna's love for the inhabitants of Vrindavan was evoked, and his body and mind became very much perturbed. After hearing of their love for him, he immediately thought himself to be always indebted to the residents of Vrindavan. Then Krishna began to pacify Srimati Radharani as follows. So then here's what he says. My dearest Srimati Radharani, please hear me. I am speaking the truth. I cry day and night simply upon remembering all you inhabitants of Vrindavan. No one knows how unhappy this makes me. All the inhabitants of Vrindavan Dham, my mother, father, cowherd boyfriends, and everything else, are like my life and soul. And among all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, the gopis are my very life and soul. And among the gopis, you, Srimati Radharani, are the chief. Therefore, you are the very life of my life. My dear Srimati Radharani, I am always subservient to the loving affairs of all of you. I am under your control only. My separation from you and residence in distant places have occurred due to my strong misfortune. When a woman is separated from the man she loves, or a man is separated from his beloved woman, neither of them can live. It is a fact that they live only for each other. For if one dies and the other hears of it, he or she will die also. Such a loving, chaste wife and loving husband desire all welfare for each other in separation and do not care for personal happiness. Desiring only each other's welfare, such a pair certainly meet again without delay. You are my most dear, and I know that in my absence you cannot live for a moment. Just to keep you living, I'm worshipping Lord Narayan. By his merciful potency, I come to Vrindavan every day to enjoy pastimes with you. I then return to Dwarka Dham. Thus you can always feel my presence there in Vrindavan. Our love affair is more powerful because of my good fortune in receiving Narayan's grace. This allows me to come there unseen by others. I hope that very soon I will be visible to everyone. I have already killed all the mischievous demons who are enemies of the Yadu dynasty, and I have also killed Kamsa and his allies. But there are still 2 or 4 demons living. I want to kill them, and after doing so, I shall very soon return to Vrindavan. Please know this for certain. I wish to protect the inhabitants of Vrindavan from the attacks of my enemies. That is why I remain in my kingdom. Otherwise, I am indifferent to my royal position. Whatever wives, sons, and wealth I maintain in the kingdom are only for the satisfaction of the Yadus. Your loving qualities attract me to Vrindavan. Indeed, they will bring me back within 10 or 20 days. And when I return, I shall enjoy both day and night with you and all the damsels of Rajabhumi. While speaking to Srimati Radharani, Krishna became very anxious to return to Vrindavan. He made her listen to a verse which banished all her difficulties and which assured her that she would again attain Krishna. Lord Krishna said, "Devotional service unto me is the only way to attain me. My dear gopis, whatever love and affection you have attained for me by good fortune is the only reason for my returning to you." Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu danced, completely absorbed in ecstatic emotion. While looking at the face of Lord Jagannath, he danced and recited these verses. So you can see here that the mood here is that, that Lord Chaitanya's Radharani, appealing, making her appeal. And Lord Jagannath, as Krishna, is saying, yes, I'm coming. I'm willing to come. I'm missing you so much. I'm crying every day in your separation. And I really want nothing more than to come back to Vrindavan. And, the only reason that I'm not in Vrindavan is because there are all these demons. And, remember when I was a child and all the demons were coming to Vrindavan and causing so much disturbance? Well, those were the easy demons. The ones in Mathura and Dwarka and elsewhere, those are really bad demons. And if they come to Vrindavan, they're going to maybe you'll get hurt or scared or killed. So I need to kill these demons first, because if I come to Vrindavan prematurely, they're going to follow me and find me, and so much disturbance will be there in Vrindavan. So I'm just waiting. I'm going to kill these demons, and then I'm for sure coming. And let your own devotional service be the guarantee, because by the devotional service, I'm purchased. I'm controlled by your love and affection, and that will definitely bring me back to Vrindavan in a short time. So this is what Jagannath is conveying to Lord Caitanya during the Ratha Yatra. And that's why Lord Caitanya in the mood of Radharani is being so ecstatic. And Jagannath is also ecstatic. It's just like this very intense, loving exchange that's going on between Lord Caitanya and Lord Jagannath during Ratha Yatra. It's very special. And we can also meditate on these things when we're having Ratha Yatra. So this is basically the essence of the relationship between Lord Caitanya and Lord Jagannath. And so although Lord Caitanya sees Jagannath in the temple in Puri, and he wants to run and embrace him, he can't, because it's not the right place. The mood there is like the mood in Dwarka, full of opulence. And there are all these formalities and restraints. So seeing Jagannath in Puri only increases Lord Caitanya's pain of separation. Because, the Lord of his life, the love of his life is standing right in front of him, but he can't interact with him. It's like, it's almost better, like when the love and the desire to be with the person in a certain mood is so intense, it's better to them to not be there, than to have them standing right in front of you and you can't you can't interact with them the way that you're impelled to. So it's just like a transcendental torture for Lord Caitanya in Puri the whole time. But then it's said that this Vipralambha bhava, or ecstasy of separation, is the highest ecstasy. And this is actually why Krishna leaves Vrindavan, because it's just to increase Radharani's love. Like, as if Radharani's love wasn't enough in Vrindavan, it increases even more in his absence. And although it looks like she's in the greatest misery, she's actually relishing the highest transcendental pleasure. And then this all comes down to the reason that Lord Caitanya came. The internal reason why Lord Caitanya came was that Krishna wanted to experience the love that Radharani has for him. And he wanted to experience the happiness that she feels by loving him. So it's in Jagannath Puri more than anywhere else where Krishna is able to get this internal desire fulfilled. Because, and that's why he stays, that's why Lord Caitanya stays in Puri for so long, because it's here where he relishes this topmost transcendental love of Radharani and the topmost transcendental happiness of Radharani, which was his personal reason for appearing in this world as Lord Caitanya. So, yeah, the relationship between Lord Caitanya and Jagannath in Puri is very esoteric. It's very difficult to understand. I can't say that I even understand it myself, but I've just tried to relay, whatever has been given by Krishna's Kaviraj in Chaitanya Charitamrita, along with the commentaries of our acharyas. So, are there any questions on this topic or reflections? Or are you all just sort of taking it all in? Or are you all doing something else and not paying attention? All right, well, Arjuna. Yeah, would you like to say something? Or are you just showing me your...
No.
Okay. All right, then. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki jai. Srila Prabhupada jai.
Wait.
Oh, Max.
Wait.
Coming in the last second.
I had a question about Lord Chaitanya. I don't fully understand how Srimati Radharani became manifest. Like, yeah, so could you really elaborate on that? Like, is this Krishna just speaking in the mood of Radharani, or is this actually Radharani fully manifest?
Yeah,
Speaking
it said that you can read this also, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Lord Chaitanya is Radha and Krishna combined, right? Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahe Anya. That he is none other than Radha and Krishna, not just Krishna, but Radha and Krishna together in one body. So Krishna's Kaviraj talks about how actually Krishna, God is one, right? But Srimati Radharani expands from, she's an expansion of Krishna. She's the embodiment of his Hladini Shakti, his pleasure-giving potency. And Krishna also has so many other expansions. We're also expansions of Krishna, we're Jiva Tattva expansions. And the reason Krishna expands himself is for the sake of pastimes, for the sake of pleasure, that he relishes those loving exchanges, and also we do. So it's all for pastimes. But then also for his pastimes, he can recombine. So in order to fulfill this internal deep heart's desire to experience what Radharani's feeling, then Radha and Krishna come together again into one form. So they were originally like one. I mean, it's not like a linear time scale that at one point they were one. It's difficult to conceive of. But, essentially they're one, but they separate into two personalities for pastimes, enjoying loving exchanges. But now those two personalities again become one in the form of Lord Caitanya. And that in the form of Lord Caitanya, although Lord Caitanya is Krishna, that Krishna aspect of his personality is kind of on the back burner. And what manifests more is Radharani. So Lord Caitanya is more in the mood of Radharani than Krishna, even though he's both. So the mood, and that's why, yeah, Radharani is the best devotee. So that's why it's perfect when Lord Caitanya comes and he demonstrates how to be a devotee in this world, how to cultivate love of Krishna and how to experience love of Krishna. Like, what does love of Krishna look like? Lord Caitanya shows us so that we can aspire for that. And we can also, have be able to set the goal, because the goal is prema pumarcha mahan. The goal of life is prema, is Krishna prema, love for Krishna. But what does that look like? How would we ever have a vision of what it even feels like or looks like to love Krishna? So Lord Caitanya shows that by showing us the highest love for Krishna, which is the love that Srimati Radharani has for Krishna. So he experiences it for his own, enjoyment. And he also demonstrates it for our inspiration. Yeah, Arjuna.
All right. Is the question done?
Yeah, I finished answering Max's question, I think.
Okay.
Unless, Max, are you okay with that?
I did have a follow-up question, but
Okay,
we can
go
wait.
ahead.
Like I've heard different things, like that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna in the mood of Radharani, and then Gadadhar is actually Radharani. So sometimes I hear like these different things, that they were one in the, like they were two, another one, or they're just Krishna in the mood of Radha, or Gadadhar Pandit's actually Radharani and Krishna is Krishna.
Yeah, it's both. Yeah, Gadadhar is a manifestation of Srimati Radharani in Gaura Lila, and Lord Chaitanya is Radha Krishna combined. It's inconceivable how Radharani can be there in Lord Chaitanya and also there in Gadadhar, and they're, friends. They're out on kirtan, doing kirtan together, and who can understand? But, anything's possible with Krishna. It's like they say, can Krishna create a mountain that he can't lift? Yes. So does that mean that he's weak? Like there's something he can't do? He can't lift the mountain? No. He can create the mountain and then in the next second lift it. So it's like that. Can Lord Caitanya be Radharani and also Gadadhar, like one of his best friends, also be Radharani, and they like interact with each other as two different people? Yeah. So it's kind of like Achintya Beta Beta Tattva on the next level. Take it to the next level. All right. Arjuna.
Yeah, I was kind of just wondering, does Lord Chaitanya have any interaction or relationship with the other two, Baladeva and Subhadra? Or, yeah, I guess he's Radharani, so Radharani doesn't, I don't know.
Yeah, you don't hear about that so much. You just hear it's a little more, it's not so intense, I guess. You hear that Baladeva and Subhadra are smiling at his dancing. And also, but it says that it's also described that when Lord Chaitanya goes to the Jagannath temple and he looks at Jagannath Bali Subhadra, he sees only Krishna. He doesn't see Jagannath Bali Subhadra. He sees Krishna, but not that he only sees Jagannath and not Bali Subhadra, but he sees like actual like Krishna in his, threefold bending form, playing his flute. That's what he sees. So, yeah. He goes into like a whole internal state where he just sees Krishna. And then, that pastime where he's standing in the back of the temple by the Garuda Stamba, and then the woman like steps on his shoulder and climbs up. So at that time, like, because, if someone climbs on him, then he comes to his external consciousness, and it's described there that he again sees Jagannath, Baldev, and Subhadra, whereas before he was just seeing Krishna. So when he gets in his real internal moods, Radharani mood, he sees only Krishna. But as Lord Caitanya, he sees Jagannath Bali Subhadra, and as a devotee, in his form as a devotee, Lord Caitanya, he worships Jagannath Bali and Subhadra. So yeah, it's interesting.
Right. Wow.
All right, then we better end. We're going to do Damodarastika now. So shall we do that again?
Jai.
Chaitanya Charitamrita ki
Jai.
jai, Jagannath
Jai.
Bali Subhadra ki jai, Jagannath
Jai.
Puri ki jai, Shri Chaitanya
Jai.
Mahaprabhu ki jai,
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to
Jai.
Samal
Jai.
Gopis. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hey,
Krishna.
We'll see you on Monday with Mondays will be the last class in the series. So please be there. Haribol.